but it was anything but a delight. 12-9 is your final. Russ, 21-39, 274, 2 INTs, including a late one that extended this game, allowed the Colts to come down the field and kick a field goal to tie it at 9-9. An interesting decision by head coach, play caller, and quarterback. They could have ran the ball, taken some more clock, gotten another first down, but instead, it's an interception in the end zone by Stephon Gilmore that leads to 3 more points for the Colts. That takes us to overtime. That leads us to yet another kick to win this ball game. The Colts improved to 2-2-1 as Denver falls to 2-3. All right, let's pick it apart with our guy Tyler Sullivan doing the work of 10 men. Tyler, we could sit here and question the decision-making there on 4th down or in regulation, the bad pass, the errant throws, but I think we just go big picture here because we're starting to learn who these teams really are, and it is not good. The Denver Broncos now 2-3, and it could be worse. They come out and they flop here in prime time once again. At a certain point, production has to meet pay, and I know nobody wants to do better right now than Russell Wilson, but it's just not adding up. What are you seeing right now?
Yeah, the alarm bells have to start going off in Denver. Obviously, in the first month, you could say, all right, new quarterback, new team, new head coach. They're still trying to figure things out. We're in week 5, going in week 6, and nothing seems to be changed. In fact, it seems to be getting worse. Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos going into this game had the worst red zone touchdown efficiency in the NFL, and you saw it tonight. It's continuing. Obviously, that interception in the end zone that allowed Indianapolis to come back. What we just saw in overtime there, their failure to execute the game-winning touchdown on 4th down. It is alarming beyond degree for Denver. At least if you're Indianapolis, you can say that, all right, we have a Matt Ryan for the next 2 years. He's 37 years old. We only gave up a 3rd-round pick to acquire this guy. If you're the Denver Broncos, you're attached to Russell Wilson for at least through his year 37 season. He's going to be 34 in November. You gave up multiple first-round picks, multiple players, multiple draft picks beyond those first-round draft selections to acquire this player to take you to the Super Bowl. And right now, you look like a team that is in the bottom of the league right now. You just are, for whatever reason, there is no cohesion, no rhythm offensively. When you do have playmakers, you do have Jerry Jeudy, you do have Courtland Sutton, you'd had Javonte Williams, who's now out for the season. Now it looks like you might have lost your starting left tackle for a substantial amount of time. He was carted off in this game. If you're Denver and you're in the AFC West looking at Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert over the next few years, maybe the next decade plus, and you thought that you'd contend over the next few years with Russell Wilson, you're starting to have some major concerns right now, what you've seen over 5 weeks.
All right, so that's the Mile High view at Mile High. But let's talk about some of the decisions here because you are the worst red zone efficient team in the NFL. You have to be aware of that as quarterback and play caller. You have 3 points essentially a snap and a kick away to extend that football game. I know you're not playing for the tie. I know you don't want to suggest to your team that you don't believe in your offense, but do you take any issue with not kicking the field goal there? Do you think that was the right decision down at the goal line in overtime?
Yeah, I actually do think it was the right decision because at some point, you got to go for it. Mm-hmm. At some point, you have to put the ball in Russell Wilson's hands and say, hey, listen, you are the multi-$100-million man. We traded all of this for you. Go win us a football game on 4th down when you're deep into the red zone. At some point, if you're Nathaniel Hackett, you have to put the ball in his hands. You just can't keep kicking it the entire time. I mean, and if you're looking at what was recently happening before that, Indianapolis was starting to get a rhythm offensively. It wasn't like they were still kind of volleying serves or volleying punts. Going into the 4th quarter and going out of the 4th quarter in that first possession in overtime, they were starting to find a rhythm offensively and move the ball down the field. As much as you say you trust that defense, over those last 2 drives, they were getting pushed around offensively by the Colts. You go for the win there in that situation, and you put the ball in the hands of your offense and your star quarterback and Russell Wilson. They just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Despite past efforts from this team, that could have been maybe the watershed moment here. You get in the end zone, you win the game. Instead, you're heading home not feeling too good about things, and not that anyone's walking away from this one feeling like world beaters. We do have to talk about Indy here, who loses their second tailback early on in the game here in Nyheim Hines. But this is a Colts team that beat the Chiefs some 2 weeks ago, Tyler. It's why we love this league, and it's the parity that we see. But how do you explain the disparity between those 2 efforts?
Yeah, it's absolutely bizarre to see what we saw tonight and say, all right, well, that team just beat the Chiefs, who beat the Buccaneers, and they dropped 41 points on them. It's just neither here nor there. We have no idea. It is spooky season after all. We have no idea what's going on in the NFL sometimes. But with the Colts, this win was monumental. It was big for both of these teams. I mean, you look at their schedule over the next 2 weeks. You're playing the Jaguars at home. You're going to Tennessee. You're 2-2-1 on the season now. You have a chance to claw back into the AFC South race. Again, it hasn't been pretty. It doesn't look particularly great. We have to see what happens with their backfield, obviously with Jonathan Taylor, whether he's able to come back. Nyheim Hines, what his status is going to be following this game. If they are able to get those guys back or one of those guys back, it will boost the offense. It will help them move the chains a little bit more. But beyond that, the passing game needs to get a little bit better. Alec Pierce, I thought, was an encouraging thing for Indianapolis coming out of this game. He was able to make some plays for Matt Ryan in the passing game. He was projected to be that number 2 opposite of Michael Pittman. It's starting to feel like maybe he's starting to catch along here. Maybe this is that watershed moment for them on the offensive side of the ball. So for me, good win for them here, even though it wasn't pretty. But now let's see what you can do over the next 2 weeks here when you have divisional opponents. If you can win both of those games, you're back into the conversation for the playoffs.
Interesting one here from the folks up in stats. The Broncos, 3 home games account for 3 of the 5 lowest scoring games in the NFL this season. It's been woefully bad. It was woefully bad on both sides this one. But as Russ has said at the podium already this season, you like to learn via wins, and that's what Indy gets to do here. What did you learn about him up front? Because it still looks shoddy in terms of that offensive line that was a top 5 group for what feels like the last decade or so. Something has changed. What are you seeing up front as Matt Ryan was sacked 6 more times here on Thursday night?
Yeah, it was a brutal effort there. I mean, that was what was keeping Denver in the game, was their the pass rush, which was impressive because obviously Randy Gregory went down for this game. He wasn't able to play, but they were still able to apply pressure for them. That's going to be a major concern. That's part of the reason why they haven't really been able to run the football either, because of that offensive line not having that initial push. So for me, again, that's one of the things that we have to watch here for this Indianapolis Colts team, because they're going to be playing teams that have a solid pass rush. I mean, even Jacksonville, I think, is able to push things around a little bit. I think their defense is a little bit underrated that they'll face next week. That's part of this equation here, part of this calculus. Can you protect Matt Ryan? He is not anything what we would call a mobile quarterback. He is a prototypical statue back there at 37 years old. You need to be able to give him time to move. And if you're the play callers at this point, if you are the Indianapolis Colts offensive coordinator and the offensive staff, you need to know what you have in terms of your offensive line. You need to know what you have in terms of your quarterback. You need to design plays that get the ball out of his hands quickly and get him in the hands of your pass catchers to relieve that pass rush so you can move the ball.
Tyler, let's offer a final thought here on the Broncos, because expectation was so high heading into this season with the addition of Russell Wilson, and they have not met those expectations or any lower expectations anywhere near what they were expected to be this season. There are no layups in this league, but the schedule ahead goes Chargers, Jets, Jaguars, Titans, Raiders, before you get to the Panthers. They're going to be in close ball games. It's who they are right now. Where do the Broncos go from here? Because at a certain point, the outside static, the outside noise starts to get to you. I think we are past that point for Russell Wilson and this team. Where do they go from here?
Yeah, you really got to just close that locker room and be within yourselves and try as best as you can to kind of eliminate that outside noise. It's not going to be easy because it was already pretty loud. I mean, you saw before overtime, the broadcast was showing fans were leaving before the overtime period even started. They are very much done with this football team as it's currently performing at this moment. And for me, you look at the schedule here, obviously at the Chargers, not going to be an easy feat if they are fully healthy. Jets, Jaguars in London, so it's not like you're going to Jacksonville or you're staying in Mile High. You're going to a neutral site field. Maybe that's one of those areas where, okay, you're out of the country, you can band together. Maybe that's that bonding moment. I wonder if that would be a little bit too late. You look at what their end of the season schedule is. From week 13 on, at Baltimore, facing the Kansas City Chiefs, facing the Arizona Cardinals, at Los Angeles Rams, at Chiefs, versus the Los Angeles Chargers to end the year. That is a murderer's row. And if you already have a below 500 or 500 record, it's going to be very hard for me to believe that you're going over 500 in that remaining schedule to make a playoff push.
Tied at 9, heading to overtime. Broncos country heading for the doors. It tells you everything you need to know right now in Denver. Tyler Sullivan does a great job as well. Thank you, my friend. All right, it wasn't an easy watch, but if you watched us before the game, made you some money. You want to win, you win with us. Here's a look at some of those winning wagers handed out free of charge earlier on Sportsline. Katie Mox had Russell Wilson tabbed over his 12.5 rushing yards. That came through in the first quarter. Kenny White, Denver first possession, hitting that plus 450 on the field goal. There's no one sharper than the Wiz. Larry Hartstein, like Nyheim Hines, under his 8.5 carries. Now, he did bow out early in this one, but a win is a win is a win. Hakeem Dermish, shout out to my colleague.
I didn't pay $1.50 either for that.
Didn't pay $1.50.
$1.20.
Matt Ryan over his interception. We got there, no doubt about it. Melvin Gordon, 12.5 receiving yards. Yep. I gave you the Colts team total under 19.5. Came sweat-free. Todd Furman, first half under principal play. Cashed once again. Will Brinson, game under. You watch, you wager, you win.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.